Hello, this is Julian, and today we're going to look at 3 new features of XtraCharts that appeared in version 2008 volume 2. The 3 features are label layout, trend lines in financial charts, and multiple panes. Let's have a look first of all at the label layout problem. So I'll drop a chart control onto my form here on my Scratch application, and I'm going to create a pie chart with 3 items on the pie. So let's just create some data here. The items are going to be fairly widely different, so I'm going to have 3 items, first couple with values 1 and 2, and the last item with value 100, just so we can show the problem. We'll finish that. Drawing the chart now, you can see the problem immediately. The 2 labels for A and B are overlapping here on the right-hand side. Let's click on the labels, and there's a new item here, a new property called overlapping options. Let's expand it. The overlapping options property has 2 fields, or properties itself. One is called resolve overlapping. If I set that to true, let's have a look over here at the chart again, and we see that the labels are no longer overlapping. The indent property is to define the separation between those 2 items. So if I said it's something like 10 pixels, and you look over here, the labels are separated by about 10 pixels. The reason for having resolve overlapping set to false and not have it default automatically to true is that the processing required to find out whether a label is overlapping another label and then to work out how to display those labels so that they're not overlapping can take an appreciable amount of time, especially when there are a lot of labels on the chart. Here it's fairly simple, there's only 3 labels, so calculating whether the labels are overlapping and where to place them to make sure they're not is a fairly simple proposition. But if you have several tens of labels, that can take an appreciable amount of time. I'll just delete that chart now, and we'll go over to the second feature that I want to talk about, and that's trend lines in financial charts. I'll create a new chart on my Scratch application. The chart wizard will start up, and this time I'm going to select a standard stock chart, and we'll set some data for that stock chart. I'm going to call them A, B, C, but in essence they're going to be different days. So the low for the first day is, well, let's call it day 1. How about that? Day 1. And the low will start at 2, the high maybe 10, opening at 3, closing at 6. Day 2. The low was started off at, let me think. The low, say 6, the high 10 again. We opened at 6 and we closed at 9. And day 3 was a really bad day. We opened, the low was 1, the high was where we opened essentially, which was 9, and we closed at 4. So now we've finished that particular chart, and there it is. Now the trend lines are a feature of the series. So under View, we have this new property called Financial Indicators. We'll open that up, and there is a collection of trend lines inside that. So let's create a new trend line. And the trend line is essentially a line between 2 points on the chart. So the first point, we'll say the argument is day 1, and the value is the low, well, we'll start with open. And day 3, we'll have the same line for open. And as we see the trend line there between day 1's open and day 3's open. The line extends out into infinity. We can set that to false. Just so the trend line just shows the current values. We can easily change it here in design time, say between the highs. Oops, the highs, there we go. And we now see the trend line between the highs on the 3 days. Now obviously this can be done at runtime using some kind of user interactivity, and if you look at the demo for the trend lines in the financial charts, you'll be able to see a lot more data and the ability to drag and drop the trend lines in between those sets of data. So that was trend lines or financial indicators in the financial charts. And the third feature I want to talk about is multiple panes in charts. Again, I'll create a new chart on my Scratch application here. The chart wizard will start up. I'm going to create a simple bar chart with a couple of series of data. Make it fairly simple. The data will have the same arguments for each of the 2 series. So that's the first series. The second series will have A, B, C again. This time we'll have some higher figures. They're fairly meaningless at this point for this particular demo. We'll finish, display the chart, and there we have the nice chart. Now the second, or the first series, I'm actually going to create as instead of a bar chart, I'm going to create it as a line chart. So we'll click on that. Create a line chart for the second series. So we have this effect going on. Now with the older version of XtraCharts, the effect was not necessarily pleasing, and sometimes it's better to actually split these 2 charts up into different panes. So they appear on the same overall diagram, but they're in different sections of the diagram. We'll click on the series and we'll change the pane here. We'll drop down that list and we create a new pane for the line chart, and here we have the 2 charts displayed on the same diagram, the 2 series displayed on the same diagram but displayed on different panes. There are several options you can set for the panes. Essentially the distance between the panes in the diagram and whether they're vertical or horizontal. So we'll collect the pane distance. At the moment is set to 10 pixels. I can set that to something different, say 200 pixels. Nah, maybe 200 is probably too much. And whether the pane is going to be displayed side by side like that or one above the other like that. Now we've created a couple of panes for the actual chart diagram, we can set various options for the panes to make their visibility better and so on. So for each pane I can set the height of the pane. We'll set it to use size in pixels and the size in pixels for the pane, say for 100, and we show the difference there. So we saw the 3 main new features in XtraCharts for version 2008 Volume 2. That's label layout, trend lines, and multiple panes. Until next time.